Hello, my name's Mark Wrigley. My memories of Page Hall go back to the 1950s. It's a place where I used to go shopping with my grandmother. She lived in Pittsmore and we'd go on the tram, which was always a bit special because I lived in Parsons Cross at the time and there was no tram service. Sometimes we'd go through Page Hall and carry on to Firth Park, where there was a boating lake and a really nice display of flowers. But what I didn't realise at the time is that living very close to the tram route at the bottom of Barnsley Road was the Rogers family. Lou and Edna Rogers came to England from India in 1953. Lou worked as a compositor at Sheffield Star for many years. And I would end up marrying his daughter. So Lou became my father-in-law. Some years later, I lived abroad. And Lou would regularly send letters to the family, often with a recipe at the end of it. And this one is his recipe for lime pickle. We kept all the recipes, and I'm going to show you how to make lime pickle in this demonstration. We've still kept all the family recipes in this folder. In fact, here's my late wife's old domestic science book. Letters from Lou, which we received in China. And somewhere down here we are, is the recipe for lime pickle. Well, of course, to make lime pickle you have to start with a lot of limes. And in fact, on Lou's recipe, he talks about lemons because back in the 50s it was really hard to get hold of limes. The first step is to chop them into reasonable sized pieces and then salt them. So I've left these limes salting for approximately a month. Let's look at the ingredients we're going to use. Well, of course, limes. And my limes are busy salting right now. And then some of the dry spices. We're going to need paprika. And I prefer to buy my paprika in large bags like this, which are available from some of the bigger supermarkets and also Indian, Bangladeshi and Pakistani shops. We are going to use ginger. Now, unfortunately, all I could find in terms of dry ginger were these jars. So what I'm going to use is fresh root ginger. And some of the other spices. So we're going to need chili powder, garlic, in this case granules, but garlic powder is even better, cumin or jeera, and turmeric, haldi, often called the poor man's saffron. We're going to have more garlic, so lots of garlic, fresh garlic. And of course, we're going to have chilies. So these are nice fresh green chilies. Bit of a tip, I always wear gloves when I'm cutting chilies because no matter how much I try to remember, I end up touching my eyes. And then of course, we're going to use vinegar. So I'm using a distilled malt vinegar here. You can use other things. Sometimes I use wine vinegar. I prefer to use these to the what are called non-brut condiments, which are basically not vinegar. The next thing I'm going to do is to drain off all this salt. So I've basically got a colander here and a bowl to catch the drips. And it's just a matter of scooping the limes out and leaving them to drain. Once you've got your limes in the colander, let them drain off for a while, possibly half an hour. And then to help clear all the salt off, you can pour vinegar and rinse them in vinegar. Now this vinegar is going to get wasted because it'll be full of salt, but it's a very worthwhile thing to do so that your limes aren't too salty. The next thing that I always hate doing is preparing the vegetables. So I decided I'd speed it up a little bit here. I just chopped the chilies, ginger and garlic, and I'm going to liquidize them later. I'm just cutting them into reasonable sized pieces that a blender could take care of. And I've always found the best way to peel garlic is to give it a little squash first with a knife. So I've got all my fresh ingredients here, ginger, garlic, the green chilies, and I've mixed all the dry ingredients into a bowl, and I'm going to make a masala. Now, masala just means a mixture of spices, and there's a funny story about chicken tikka masala because it was actually invented in Britain. An Indian restaurant owner was selling chicken tikka, and his customers were surprised that there was no sauce. So he invented something called chicken tikka masala, which I think is quite a popular dish now. But my masala is going to be made up of ground up fresh ingredients, vinegar, which is very important, not water, and my spices. And normally to grind things I'd use this. It's a herb and spice mill. It has a little blade inside, and it can take wet things as well as dry. But I'm doing such a large batch of lime pickle today that I'm just going to use a conventional blender. So just put my ingredients in and we shall make a lot of noise. So I've got my ingredients in the blender, and I'm just going to top it up with a bit of vinegar to get things going. And to that I'm going to add all my dry spices. A bit more vinegar. And the next thing I need to do is to fry the masala. I'm going to fry the masala in an old cast iron pan. It's just a handy thing to have around, and it's the biggest thing I've got. Unfortunately, I don't have anything big enough to cook everything at once, so I'm going to do 2 batches. But first I'm going to start off with frying the masala. And I'm just using a rapeseed oil for this. You can use any type of oil. I've never tried ghee. I prefer rapeseed cold press oil because it's less processed and it has a high flame temperature. Right. You can usually tell when the masala is cooked because the oil will come to the surface, and cooking the masala this way brings out the flavours of the spices. So I'm getting a real smell of vinegar. Happy that that's cooked, and now I'm going to add the limes. just to get things moving a little bit, I'll add some more vinegar. So I'm pretty happy that my limes are covered with the masala, and the next thing to do is to simply put the heat on very gently until it all starts to boil. And there we have it. The other thing I should point out is that you can, if you wish at the end, add a little sugar to improve the flavour, but you really don't need to add any salt to this dish because you salted the limes in the first place. Once that boils, we'll start bottling it. The lime pickle's been left to cool, and I've combined my two batches into one pan. Our next job now is to bottle it into the jars. Just about any glass jar will be suitable for bottling. If you have a dishwasher, a good tip is to run them through the dishwasher first at a high temperature to get them nice and clean and sterile. And then it's just a matter of putting the lime pickle into the jars. It's a bit of a messy process, and it's always good to make sure that you've got no air gaps as you bottle it. And it's worth taking your time over this to do it properly. So there we have our lime pickle, and a fantastic tribute, I hope, to Lou Rogers, who came to England in the 1950s and lived in the Page Hall area. So thank you very much, and if you want to keep in touch with me, here's all my contact details. So enjoy your lime pickle.